Wow. Welcome, everybody, to tonight's session. We're excited to be with you and share what happened with our lifestyle medicine conference that we all came. There were four of us from up here, went down, and then answer any questions that you might have. We'll be back. Just stay tuned. Right. Oops, details. So it looks like we might be able to get started. It's just a little bit after 7 o'clock, and uh, we this session tonight we're going to be going over a conference that Scott talked us all into going to, and it was well worth it and a wonderful experience, which I think you'll take away by the time we get done sharing what we learned and our experiences. We have a few pictures to show you and share some of our thoughts with you. And this is an open forum class, which means that you can just ask your questions on any topic that you like, and we'll be happy to try to field those questions for you. Want you to sit back, relax, have some fun. And I'm going to kind of turn this over to Scott a bit, since he was the one who kind of got us started to go to one of these conferences.
Guess we can both use the microphone.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So, yeah, I've been to a lot of these conferences starting back in, well, first two are the longer ones they have happened up in Portland, starting in 2015. And went to those first, and then I learned about the national and international ones. So there's one through the Plantrition providers. Plantrition Project is a nonprofit, and it's called the International Plant-Based Nutrition Healthcare Conference. And the first one I went to, one of those was in 2017, actually. And several of them since then. Did them virtually during the pandemic, as you can imagine. And then I started, once I got into the lifestyle medicine, the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. The first one of those I went to was in 2019, and that was in Orlando, Florida. And then so kind of since then, I've kind of gone back and forth. I go to the nutrition one year, because they're every fall, and then I go to the American College of Lifestyle Medicine one the next year.
Let's make sure, because someone said that it's not clear. So maybe look that up again and maybe hold it a little further away. Thanks for letting us know it's not clear. We'll see if we can get it clear for you online.
I just had a quick question.
Yeah, go
What
ahead.
kind of conference did you go to?
So it's a plant-based nutrition healthcare conference.
Oh.
So yeah, so the American College of Lifestyle Medicine has one, so I was going back and forth one fall, next fall, so back and forth. So I've been to two of the ACLM ones. I think this is my fifth or sixth one for through the Plant Nutrition Project. So they're very. Since it was the first time for Charlie and me to go to the Plant Nutrition one, I'll let them give their thoughts on it. But I guess having been to so many of both of them, the Plant Nutrition one we just went to in Anaheim this past week from Friday through Monday. We just got back Monday night. Well, it is a little bit smaller, like there was about 500 people there. It was mostly medical providers. There's physicians and dietitians and nurses, diabetes educators. It was probably the vast majority, but there's also people that are just kind of general interest, but that's the minority, but anybody could go. So that's the smaller one, like 500 people. I think there was about 200 people that were there virtually, because you can do virtual or in person. And then the lifestyle medicine one last fall was in Denver, Colorado, and that one was like 3,000 people. So And there's like something like 22 countries represented. There's people from Australia, China, everywhere, because lifestyle medicine is everywhere in the world. And they actually have a separate one in Australia. Plant nutrition does down there as well. But yeah, what they have in common is that they feed you all whole food plant based. So just imagine walking up to a buffet, like as long as this room with all plant based food, you can eat as much of anything as you want. And then you're sitting around tables, you're talking to other doctors, other providers that are sometimes it's through patients. Oh yeah, a patient of mine, plant-based diet, started taking off all their medications. So what are you doing? And I learned about lifestyle medicine and a plant-based diet, and that improved their health. And now they share it with the rest of their patients. And other people, it's kind of like my story where they have their own health problems, found it that way, like I did, and then share it with their patients. And I'm kind of a nerd. So how many people in here have heard of have watched the movies The Matrix? All the Matrix movies with Keanu Reeves, right? So it's a perfect analogy for this. So it's like once you learn about whole food, plant-based nutrition, lifestyle medicine, it's like you've been unplugged from the Matrix, right? And so once you're unplugged, you've seen the truth, and you can't go back, kind of a thing. And so you took the red pill instead of the blue pill, right? And so again, this is really nerdy, but when you go to these conferences, that's Zion. Remember from the movie, the Zion, where all the unplugged people are. That's what you're going. So you're because Charlie and I, you see all these patients every day, all of our colleagues, they're plugged into the matrix. They don't get it. You might tell them, oh yeah, you should have patients come to the classes, and you should try to follow more whole food, plant-based diet yourself. And they don't get it, right? It's like, oh yeah, I mean, that sounds good, whatever. But they don't really get it because they're still plugged into the matrix. And so it's so refreshing to go to these conferences because you're around other providers that all get it. Everyone gets it. And so it's just refreshing. And then, yeah, the great food and all the stories. And, I've gone to other medical conferences. You don't see people that are hugging and like telling their stories and are emotional. It's just like they're just pharmaceuticals, and this is what the science is. And we'll talk to you guys about there was 19 different 1 hour classes that we had over the 4 days. And we'll kind of go over just briefly what we took away from some of them and answer your questions and stuff. But yeah, that's just what I wanted to share about that. And Charlie, do you want to talk about what your first impression was of the conference, and Emmy, you can too as well.
Sure. Yes, so I've been resisting to go to any conferences because I've been to so many conferences in my life, being board certified in family medicine and in emergency medicine. It's been one conference after another, thanks, one conference after another, and most of them have a lot of boring presentations. And I just thought to myself, there's no sense in me was just continuing to interact with Scott or seeing the new people who were kind of getting enthusiastic about lifestyle medicine. Kind of came to the conclusion that even though I'm board certified in a couple medicine specialties, it was time for me to really be supportive of lifestyle medicine, which is where my heart is now, not in family medicine as it's practiced or in emergency medicine. And so I decided to get certified. And as part of that process, um, I needed to attend a in-person course. And that's what this course was. Scott recommended it. I actually was going to sign up for one on the East Coast, and um, Scott convinced me to come to this one. And it's kind of interesting because at one of the breakfast or lunch or dinner times, I was sitting across the table from a couple who had a lifestyle medicine practice, and they were coming to this conference for the second or third time. And I said, why are you coming here when your your practice is all the way on the East Coast? And they said, well, this conference is so much better. It's got a feel that, makes us feel welcome, and we love this conference. So I feel very fortunate that Scott talked me into it. Um, you know, um, I don't think I was bored with any of the lectures. I got a little tired toward the afternoon time because, you start at 8 in the morning and there's 4 lectures before lunch. They're about an hour apiece. And then after, there's another 4. So that's 8 hours. And I couldn't sit. You know me, I'm kind of bouncing around all the time. So I had to stand in the back of the room listening to the lectures, and the sound system. Some of the speakers that came over better than others. I listened to the ones that were a little fuzzy on the recording, and boy, it's wonderful sound. And um, but anyway, my neighbor, I saw her yesterday in her yard. She says, "So you've been gone in conference?" And I said, "Yeah." She says, "Well, what's it like?" I said, well, this was a conference that was quite a learning experience and something different than I had experienced for quite some time. You know, we all at times can feel a bit lonely. We're kind of by ourselves in our own world. We may have a life at work, we may have our friends, and like I told her, I've got a great life. I've got great neighbors. I am involved with a lot of activities. I play tennis, but there are times when I actually feel alone with my promotion of whole food, plant-based lifestyle, kind of exiled from a number of my family members. And I don't like that feeling of aloneness. That may be part of the reason I'm involved in so many other things. But attending this particular conference, I no longer felt alone. This was like, as Scott says, I found my tribe. And, everybody was so enthusiastic and telling their stories, sharing their stories, interested in hearing what our stories were, that it was, I wouldn't say an overwhelming experience, but I no longer felt the least bit alone. And that was wonderful in itself. And I guess I'm going to leave it at that.
Come on up. And one other conference I want to throw in there was I did go to 2 in 2022. They actually have a third one every year in August. It's through the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, PCRM, Dr. Neil Barnard. He has one in Washington, D.C. called it International Plant-Based Health or International Nutrition Conference. And that was a good one too. It's a little bit smaller. But this was an excuse to go to Washington, D.C.
Well, my experience was different than theirs. Let me just say that. So I am by nature an overachiever. Like I've been a certified firefighter. I used to drive fire trucks, and there's nothing more exciting than driving a fire truck down West 11 at high speed with lights and sirens. You feel like the world is going to part for you. The Red Sea, right? But when I got to this conference, a wise old man made a comment to me, and I don't even remember his exact words, but it was something along the lines of what was holding me back. I mean, in 2010, I met Joel Fuhrman, not personally, but his book. And in 7 months' time, I reversed my diabetes and lost 85 pounds. And as you can see, I've lost that battle. So I'm back on the plate, and I've been there for a while. I met Scott, and Scott's been steering me a little bit. But when I walked away from this wise old man saying this to me, I started to see the conference as a different thing. I went there to learn about food and a plant-based diet, and I walked away having learned more about myself. And what I learned is that there are things that stand in our way from being successful, whatever it is we're trying to do, right? And you can either spend your time in therapy trying to sort that out, or you can just say, heck with that and accept it and move on. And so during this conference, I found myself writing a list. You saw the notes I took, copious notes. And in those notes, I just started writing a list of the places that I fudge. And it was a longer list than I thought. So that was pretty cool. Meeting the heroes, the books, the authors of the books that I've been reading for a long time. I mean, I kind of started this journey for myself in 1973 with reading a book called Sugar Blues, getting off white sugar, you know what I mean? And in those days, you were laughed at if you ate brown rice and vegetables. So it's different now. You know, it's easier now because those things are available to us. But the conference, meeting these people and being able to walk up to them, shake their hands and talk to them and ask them questions, personal questions, and have them answer it and not feel like they're in a rush to get someplace else. Like you're the most important person on the planet at that moment. Super cool. I mean, I talked to Dean Ornish, come on. If you're going to put the Pope on your wall or, you know, or the President of the United States, you should have Dean Ornish on your wall. The guy's a god. The guy started, he was a heretic at one point. That's how he was thought of. And I don't even know why he's doing this, I guess. But anyway, I wrote an article for the newsletter and it came straight from my heart about what I felt and what I thought. So, you know, the medical professional me saw it one way, but Mary Ellen saw it a different way. I saw it very personally. I talked to everybody I could possibly talk to. And I found myself at one point talking to a GI doc in the hallway with hundreds of people walking around me. And it felt like we were the only two in this bubble because she's asking me very personal questions about my gut health and I'm answering them. And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, people walking by us now know how many times a day I poo. You know what I mean? But that's how personal it could be. You know, listening to Brooke Goldner talk about green smoothies and it's like, yeah, I drink a green smoothie every day, but I walked away with a whole different feeling about it. And then, you know, what holds us back? Why do we, you know, what's in our way? It's advertising, it's media, it's newspapers, it's magazines, it's all the stuff that we see that tastes so good. Mm-hmm. I was just telling Renee that I don't not eat bacon because I don't like bacon. When Atkins came out and I could eat all the bacon I want, I thought I died and went to heaven. I love bacon. I just don't love dying more. Right? So, you know, the Carl's Jr. burger thing that you see on TV, the double cheeseburger, it's dripping with oil. You need a paramedic to watch that. Never mind eat it. You know what I mean? So what holds us back? It's our culture. It's everything that we see. It's all the media. It's all the advertising. It's all that stuff. And then it's us and it's our families and it's, you know, the people around us who think we're nuts, but we're going to live longer. So we can laugh when it's all over, right? We can go to their funeral. But anyway, for me, it became very personal on not only a health level, but on my mental health. It became very personal. I thank that wise old man for starting that conversation with me. So I'm going in October to Orlando and I can't hardly wait. It's a different kind of conference. This was, you didn't have to choose which path you were going to take. You just sat through 19 hours and 3 days of classes, and they were all pretty interesting. And the people were excited about what they do, and they put out information that we're not going to get anyplace else. We're not going to get it. You're going to get it from those conferences. You're going to get it from people like Charlie and Scott, or people who've been there, and realizing what we do, and there's things that we don't want to give up, you know, or learning to eat something without salt, sugar, and fat, you know, and still having it taste good to you. It's a journey, and you just have to get on it and go. And I don't know that anybody's perfect. And there was so much salad there, I thought I was going to choke to death. But you know, when you're looking at people, you know, 500 people who are going through a line to get food, and every single plate is heaped 4 or 5 inches deep with plant-based food, I just go, wow, how do you eat all that? You know what I mean? So I was pretty inspired. I walked away very inspired, re-inspired by the heroes that I've read all these years, very inspired by the journey that I'm on. I was talking to my daughter, who's a nurse practitioner, will be certified pretty soon here. And I was telling her everything I was feeling, and she said, Mom, I can feel the hope in you. Yeah. So I'm really grateful for that opportunity.
Thank you. Right.
So you have anything else to say? Or so people ask questions, but then we can kind of go over a few of the. I have some notes I took on my phone from each of the lectures. So
yeah, so let's start and see if there's any questions from anyone. These
I have a
classes aren't for
question.
you.
I
Okay,
have a
so there's
question. Yes,
Marcia online first, then we'll get back to the room. Go ahead,
I'd like
Marcia.
to know what conference she's going to in Orlando.
It's the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, one that I was talking about. One that's the bigger one, it's like 3,000 people will be there. And there's different tracks on that one, so you can choose, there's like 40 some hours worth of lectures, and so you only have time for whatever 20 some. So there's like, you can watch, they're all recorded too, so you can watch them at your leisure and get even more. So it's kind of hard because you're like, I want to go to this. These both sound interesting. Should I go to this one or this one? Okay, I'll go to this one and watch this other one. Recording. Right. Right. So you can. The comment was that you can, one person you're with can go to one, and you can go to the other one. You can kind of share notes and stuff too. So it gives it's more dynamic because maybe a dietitian might want to go to this one, a GI doc might want to go to this one, a cardiologist might want to go to this one. So there's whatever interests you with that. So.
Okay. Yes.
Get a feel for whether or not the I gotta be on the mic.
Just this little.
So people online can.
Did you get a feel for a trend of any kind? Is the trend towards plant-based diet going up? Is it plateauing, leveling off? Is there a massive movement, or what is it doing nowadays?
Yeah, it's definitely a movement. So one of the speakers we can talk about who's towards the end of the conference, he actually just finished his family practice residency, so a young kid was just coming out, and so he actually talked about that. And I've talked about it in the classes before how I think he even said when he was applying for his residency just like 4 years ago, there was only about 20 residency programs in the country in lifestyle medicine. Now there's over 300. So it's really grown a lot. So you can get do fellowships in pulmonary medicine, so physicians can cook it healthy, more friendly for patients, for themselves and their patients. And then you can kind of like I got board certified in lifestyle medicine, but Charlie's going to take the test in November. You can come out of that residency not only board certified in family medicine, but also lifestyle medicine. So you can come out with that skill set already. So it's definitely growing. They're working on the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. One reason for us and everyone to support them is they've already written board questions to put into the medical boards. They're starting to integrate those. So once there's enough board questions on the MD and DO board exams in time, the medical schools will then be forced to teach the curriculum in their schools, because their goal is just to have their students pass it with high rates. That's their goal. And like Charlie can talk about how he had a hard time getting the curriculum committee at his DO school where he was on faculty to adopt lifestyle medicine into their curriculum because it wasn't on their boards. So it's an uphill battle, but that's changing.
I just wanted to say that it's bigger than just our medical world learning about plant-based eating. I don't think convincing docs that this is the way to go, because what doctors are looking at right now is the gold standard, which is evidence-based science. We're not fighting that anymore. In the 70s and 80s, we were fighting, it was anecdotal. Everything we were saying about eating vegetables was anecdotal. It's not anymore. It's there, but there's a bigger picture that needs to change. The medical schools need to start teaching it. The insurance companies need to start paying docs to give us the education, because they don't, right? The insurance company, pharma, I think it was Zach.
Zach Burns.
He said this, one of the stats he gave us, which kind of blew my mind, is that 90% of all funding goes to pharma. 3% goes to prevention. So there's business background that we have to change as well. And so the stronger the evidence-based science gets, and the more of us are going to our doc saying, hey, I did this or I did that, or you're showing them results from eating healthy. It's not that doctors are bad or stupid, it's that they just don't know. And we as a society are so geared to trusting them. We trust them. I mean, I have brothers and sisters, they go to the doctor says, take all these meds, and they do it. They don't ask what they're for. They don't know what they're for, you know, they just take them. We as a society trust the doctors. They're not bad people. These aren't bad people, but they just don't know. So why do we as a society keep trusting the docs who don't know when we in this group at least know that there are docs who do know, and the results are crystal clear now.
Any other questions from anyone in the audience about any topic? Yes. Just this one.
At the, which way? Okay. At the convention, was there any talks about, I'm going to say, what's the range of plant-based foods to go towards, and what that looks like in terms of like portioning, like a day for somebody adopting a plant-based diet? Does that question make sense?
Yeah.
For those two questions?
Just like what percent of your diet should be a whole food plant-based diet?
Yeah, and food consumption of it, portion control.
Well, I mean, the consensus from the position statement of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine is 95% of your calories of your food should be unprocessed whole plant food. So they don't, you know, the ACLM, American College of Lifestyle Medicine, doesn't take a vegan stance or anything like that. It's just majority of your calories should be whole unprocessed plant foods, low in sugar, salt, oil, things like that. And so, but as far as different diets for different things, I mean, we have different studies, different specialties. So we've talked about in classes that, you know, only 100% whole food plant-based diets are shown to reverse heart disease. So if you have heart disease, you're trying to avoid a bypass or a stent, you might consider going 100%. Whereas if you're already in your 20s, you're relatively healthy, you're not on medications, you can probably just move in the direction of a more whole food plant-based diet. You know, because there's a spectrum. So from the standard American diet being the worst to 100% whole food plant-based diet being the best, wherever you are on that spectrum, depending on what your health problems are, risks, goals, all those things, moving on down that spectrum. But you know, some conditions like, you know, the autoimmune disease, where like Brooke Goldner talks about green smoothies and hypernutrition, she calls it. There's specific tweaks within each of the different conditions and specialties that vary a bit. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. I'll have one little small question after that, at least for right now, anyways. Are there any plant-based foods that you all talked about that's an enhancement to a healthy wellness of the mental health as we grow older?
That was one of the talks was on mental health. That so and there's even actually a book we're reading in the book club right now. It's about exercise called Spark, but it's written by a psychiatrist and talks a lot about the exercise's effect on mental health. But with the talk Pam gave and Charlie as well, we do have good science on the more greens and the gut microbiome, all the fiber feeding bacteria, create more serotonin, more sense of well-being, and all these types of things. Anything you want to add?
Basically, that's it. More fruits and vegetables is the short answer to that. In terms of your food, and like Scott mentioned, the exercise, but there is also, you know, social connection and dealing with stress and those other kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yes, Debbie. Grab the microphone.
So I just wanted to mention
Yeah.
that book Sparked. I haven't been to the book club yet, but that blew my mind about the benefits to the mental health of healthy eating. And they started off, this guy that wrote it started off with talking about this super innovative program for elementary and middle school and high schoolers. And it was so fascinating. And we saw that film with the video resource. So she wrote The Joy of Movement, Kelly.
McGonigal.
Yeah, McGonigal. And so I just started reading that too, and it's the same message. And last week when we had our, we didn't have tech and we just had sort of more sharing, people were saying how incredible for mental health it's been for them, and me included, probably more than physical health for the noggin, so, or for the brain.
How many people here were here last week? Physical activity, great.
Nice.
Maintenance.
Sure.
I just want to tell you that if you're eating a whole plant-based food diet, and I don't like the word diet, but if that's where you're at, there's no weighing, there's no measuring, there's no calorie counting, there's no carb counting, there's none of that. You can eat what you want as much as you want, right? They talk about a pound of vegetables a day. If you're eating high density veggies, that's a lot of food. So all that stuff that we do in diets, forget it. None of that matters. Just a great variety of fruits and vegetables will get you there. I learned this past weekend, I was eating 6 fruits a day when the first doctor in my diabetes told me I shouldn't eat fruit at all. Now I eat 10 fruits a day. It's permission.
Any other questions? Yes.
You talked about not using or eating processed food, but I was at the grocery store and I saw these crackers that were across the front of it. It said plant-based crackers. Now, is something like that is the processing of that not good, or is that just a whatever?
I'll let you take a quick guess at that.
Well, I'm going to say it's probably not good.
I think you're probably right on track.
Okay.
You know, what happens on those is they strip away the fiber and lots of the nutrients, and then they crush it, pack it, and bake it, and whatever it might be. So it really leads to inflammation, chronic inflammation over time, the more that you eat. So
It floods your brain with dopamine, so that's the calorie density of that is really high, probably 1,000 calories a pound in those crackers. Whereas if you just ate the brown rice or the corn, the whole grain that they're made it from would only be about 400 or 500 calories a pound. It's not going to kind of trigger your pleasure center and kind of that artificial stimulation of the brain.
It's kind of also how we're bamboozled. I mean, if you look at a bag of chips, it'll say gluten-free. They're potatoes. Potatoes are gluten-free. So there's a lot of that hype now. That's where the money, a big part of it that I heard many times through this conference is follow the money. Who's paying for what, who's paying for which study, who's doing the advertising. There are really only 4 huge companies in our world that supply us our food on a regular basis. I mean, I was stunned when I found out what Nabisco really owns. But we're bamboozled a lot by media, by advertising. Writing the words plant-based on it just fools a ton of us because we want to believe it, right? I love crackers, but the processed food causes inflammation as well as other.
Yeah, so I imagine part of the conference was seeing new books that have been written, and hopefully that was part of it. I wonder whether there's a book that is somewhat like a catalog of people's stories with their numbers and then the results, because I always think for something like that would be super useful in talking to people. Say, see if we can find somebody with your condition. So that's my question.
in fact, the organizer, Dr. Stoll, asked us to submit patient stories so that they could do because it's so powerful, hearing other people's stories. Well, there is a site that's been done for years. It's ready right now for you to look at. It's www.drmcdougall.com. Go to his site and you just look under testimonials or whatever it is, patient stories. He has a slew of them, of all sorts of conditions of people who've had tremendous benefit. McDougal. Dr. Dr. McDougal.
Forks Over Knives website also has success stories, as well as Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. But you're talking about a book where you can just show somebody.
So it would seem like not everybody's the best writer. If it was like in a format that was just thinking, like the advantage of having like a consistent format in that. But anyway, maybe it's the book that you'll write.
I mean, a lot of the speakers do have books and stuff because they've written them over the years, but I think I guess Emmy can comment on this too, but for us medical providers, it's very similar to other medical conferences as far as they cite they go over the studies, they actually show the trials and what the trial data was. And so it's all good science. So that can be kind of boring for some people, but for us medical providers, we like that because that's what we practice evidence-based medicine. So this is no different. So that's kind of the legitimacy of it. The fact that ACLM now has actually the president, the head of the American Medical Association is board certified in lifestyle medicine. The American Medical Association is the boss, the big boss for all doctors, all providers. And now ACLM also has a seat on the American Medical Association on their board. So that's another example of how it's progressing and moving, becoming more mainstream.
When we were doing just Zoom classes over the last few years, I don't know, a couple stories a month came out with people online. One of them that has a story over and over for many years is the Stu and Sharon Stevens, about how he lowered his insulin dose with type 1 diabetes. It's a very powerful story, and how he has tears in his eyes because he no longer feared about dying continually. He was able to live his life once he changed his lifestyle. There are other stories like that. In October, I've got a success story for a lady 6 months ago who called me up, and she was very depressed, and she was told by 3 doctors to get her affairs in order. She sold her house, or arranged to get it sold. She gave away her horse, and then she started on this plan. And all of a sudden, she's reversed a number of her disease conditions and is actually living life again in spite of that. So these are really powerful reasons. When you see stories like that, you hear it directly from the person, that have such an important impact. And so we encourage any of you who have stories like that to share them in the times, either in the beginning of the class or the end of the class, or whenever and we ask you, anybody have anything to share? That's what we're looking for, because that's going to help your fellow attendees here as much as anything we have to say.
That's a good segue to the opening dinner and keynote speaker, Scott Stoll, who's the doctor that's in charge of the Nutrition Project. The notes I took on that, this is perfect based on what we're talking about, says the message is to give patients hope by telling a story, rather than sharing the specifics of the science of nutrition and lifestyle change. The patient may have lots of challenges in their life and culture for change, but if you can give them hope, they may find a way to make it work in their own life. That was kind of the theme of that opening keynote.
And in the past, in my training, I was not given the hope that we could do anything other than write for another pill, for diabetes, for high blood pressure, for heart disease, for arthritis, for all these chronic illnesses. I had never received any message from my medical profession that there was hope until I actually changed my life 13 years ago. And I learned that there is hope. And I've been able to share that message with a number of people.
So, go ahead.
I have a question. Did you say that Dr. McDougall was his first name John?
Yes,
Because he just died.
yes, he did.
Yeah, it says here that he died in his sleep.
Yeah,
That's
so
scary. He was only 77.
yeah, he was only 77, but he started his life at 18 with a stroke. At age 18. And you know, having a stroke at that early an age puts you at risk for having another stroke. And he beat the odds, so to speak, in terms of his overall life, even though he's a relatively young person compared to our thinking. So exactly. Plus, he had another episode in which, at the fires down in California, he had to escape with his for his life. Running out of his home, he fell down and fractured his leg, wound up in the hospital, had complications, was on dialysis, and was ready to die and lived through that. So he had a number of these couple insults, which were horrendous insults. And if you saw him in life, he had vibrant life and was not an ill person.
Good on it.
Yes.
On the internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I spent almost 40 years of my nursing career. I owned a very specialized care facility. These were brain injured adults who had severe disabilities. Sometimes they were paralyzed from their neck down, but they had brain damage, closed brain damage. So there was lots of, and I see Patty shake her head because she worked for me for a long time. She still works over there, right? Yeah. And the number one thing that got people into my care facility, because it was very specialized, was behaviors. So they had to have a brain injury. The level of physical disability didn't matter, but it was the behaviors. They had to have failed at 3 other placements. The 3 other placements were typically nursing homes or other residential care facilities. But when they got there, the behaviors were sometimes super extreme. And I would look at the whole thing, and that these guys can talk about medicine from their point of view. I can't even compete because I got my nursing degree and went back to work. But if you want to talk about brain injuries and long-term care and behaviors, I can talk about this all day long. But what I want to say here is that I would get these people with these extreme behaviors, and I'd look at their med list, and sometimes they'd have 10, 15, 20 medications, and I couldn't tell what was brain injury or what was real. So I had a few docs that I worked with all the time, and we would put them on a drug holiday. We would literally get them off of everything so I could see what the brain injury issues were. When you go to a doc, I don't know, I know there's people in this room old enough to know that doctors used to have their own private practices. Yeah, that isn't real anymore. It's not very rare to find a doc in their own practice. So docs are now working for corporations who tell them you have to see this many patients a day, you've got to spend this much time, and they give them a toolbox. Here's your toolbox. The toolbox has got referrals to specialists and pills, right? Everything you put in your mouth has a consequence. If it's an apple, it has a consequence, a good one. If it's a pill, it may have 10 bad ones. So you have to be kind of mindful of that, whatever you're putting in, and that your doc doesn't necessarily know that. These people do. And the people that we met at this conference do. And the stories are incredible, and the outcomes are unbelievable sometimes. We die in this country from chronic diseases. We don't die from car accidents. I mean, some people do, but that's not the majority. The majority of us die from chronic diseases. And it's this eating style, this lifestyle that can prevent all that. So if you're looking at most of the money going to 90% of pharma, 90% of the money going to pharma, I think Zach said this, we have an ill care system, not a healthcare system, right? So the best you can do is the best you can do. Do it every day to the best that you can do it, and you're going to see some positive changes going forward, right? But if you don't want surgery, by God, don't go see a surgeon, because that's what they do. Am I crazy? You know what I mean? So call these guys. Charlie puts his phone number out there all the time. You can call Charlie. This is a free doctor here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll give you his phone number.
That's pretty funny. So we're going to let you get through that list here pretty soon, but I just need to share a little bit more with you. Coming home, I was feeling pretty motivated, thinking about how are we going to keep increasing the class sizes and spread the word. You know, how do we do this? We've been begging for a long time online. We've been live in person now since, I don't know, February of this year, which isn't a very long time. But one thing that's really been lacking is media coverage from the TV stations, radio stations. So I, formulated a little letter. We got it signed off by the president of Eugene Plant-Based Providers and the secretary that it was okay to go around share this. So I took the letter about what we do, and I took the pamphlet or the announcement at the Grange, what we're doing. clipped it together with Eugene plant-based providers and put my card on it. And so I took this and so knocked on the door on Chad Street. What's around Chad? KVAL? KACI. So KACI. I go there and it's locked. Appointment only. You cannot get through the door. I push the buzzer to talk with somebody. And sure enough, there was a voice, Debbie. Not this Debbie, but another Debbie. And I explained to her in my quickest elevator speech that I could, trying to convince her that what I had was an important message for her. And she says, come on in. So I came in and spent the next 20 minutes talking with this woman who had become totally plant-based a few years ago. And her daughter is, she did this with her daughter who moved away, but she told me that she knows Gregor and she was teaching his class material and she might be coming back here. But she said that she drifted back toward the standard American diet over the time because she didn't really have the support. She knew nothing about the class discussion. I was feeling pretty good that with some reporter or someone of importance at TV. I haven't heard a word from them that they like to kind of discuss this. So then my next thing is I plugged into KVAL, and that's way up there. And the same thing, they had folders and they looked like reporters or someone. And I discussed with them what was going on. Response. But people inside those locked doors. So then I got to the last, and that was the radio station on 8th Street. I didn't, the numbers, I didn't see I can't remember what they were, but I was looking at odd numbers on this side of the street. And then I said, oh, it's an even number that I need to go to. So I'm walking across the street and I see this sign and it's kind of like the lettering is really small. And I'm looking for it. And the next thing I know, I go flying through the air onto the ground. And scrape up my arm and scrape up my leg. And my folder goes flying. Because I hit a curb or something, and I was so focused on trying to get to this address. And by the time I got to the door and pushed the button, the guy comes out, and I was literally shaking. I told him, I had a little fall, but here's what I came for. And he says, okay, I'll look it over, and I haven't heard from him yet. So anyway, that's the extent that we're trying to go. Yes.
And I told him all about you. I showed him your website. The woman took down all the information. It's
In other words, out on the land.
on the planet like around 13, 14, right here. So that's
Uh-huh.
place. And it's, anyway, it's all, private.
Supplements.
But I showed the woman, go to your website and what happened. She actually wrote it all down. So.
Okay, that's how it's going to get.
So I
Bit
was
by
encouraged
bit.
to go
Thank
there
you.
because, I was just a customer, but you guys were the professional.
Okay. Evergreen? Okay.
Yeah, that the Gene Health Wellness Expo.
Yes.
Well, the radios used to do free community publicity for events going on, so you might be able to just get some free spots that would run, every, for a couple of weeks or something. And
I
just,
did send an email to Love Cross at KCC. She responded to announce this class was when it first started. at the end of July, but I never heard, I didn't know they.
Yeah, I mean, people listen to the radio all the time, you know, those community spots are pretty good. I did give your card, Charlie, and the paper about lifestyle medicine to my new PCP at Oak Street. And he said, oh, you know, obviously there's no time to talk about it, but he took it anyway. So
Yeah. Thank you.
his name is Hilke Schneider, and he's really great and seems to really care a lot about patients and takes the time, which I haven't had in a long time.
Great.
Can I ask one question? I
Sure.
don't know. For people who might be considered seniors, okay, say it's 60 and over, who are just recently coming into trying to change to have less meat and animal products. Okay, let's put it that way. Basically successful about a third of the time. I mean, that's so far that's what we've got down. Like breakfast is down, and I'm very happy about it. The 5 fruits a day. Anyway, especially in the summertime. But my question is there anything at this point in life, besides a pharmaceutical, could plant-based change actually help with bone density? That's my question, especially for lactose intolerant people. So I am taking calcium and vitamin D, but I don't want to take the new pill that I've been told would be a good idea. But I want to go in with a fresh attitude because, of course, I respect doctors. I always have. And I have another appointment with my PCP to discuss this next week. Is there any evidence that switching to a complete plant-based diet right now is going to make a difference? Do you know? And if you don't know, how can I find out?
Yeah, most of the studies for, like, if you do DEXA scan, they're going on, do lifestyle medicine, open plant-based diet, does it increase bone density? As far as I know, we don't have that kind of data, but we do know a lot of the mechanisms of what causes osteoporosis. And so actually dairy is part of the problem because osteoporosis is not a calcium deficiency disease. It's a disease of basically demineralization and not having enough stress on our bones. And so we know really what the cause of osteoporosis is not getting enough physical activity, weight bearing activities, things like smoking, maybe vitamin D plays a role. It's not calcium deficiency, so people are generally getting enough calcium. Actually, when the dairy industry has been feeling the heat because people are kind of waking up and realizing dairy's not a healthy thing, that they actually scoured the world literature. They said, okay, find us some cases of calcium deficiency in the world literature so we can say, hey, people get calcium deficiency, we need to promote dairy products. And they couldn't find one. There was not any documented cases of calcium deficiency. And there's rickets, which is vitamin D deficiency. People aren't getting enough nutrients and things like that. So not smoking, getting weight bearing exercise, getting resistance exercise to maintain your muscle mass, that's the solution. Getting, of course, getting enough vitamin D, enough sunshine here, so getting at least 2,000 international units of vitamin D3, getting your calcium from plants, because that's where the cows got it, from plants. And we know that calcium supplements actually increase your risk of heart attack and stroke, causes a hypercoagulable state in your blood. And so getting a little bit, like, if you drink an almond milk or a soy milk that might have 300 or 400 milligrams of calcium in a cup, that's not a big enough dose to cause a problem. But if you're taking like 1,200 milligrams, like the doctors will tell you to, that actually increases the risk of heart attack and stroke. So you're better off getting your calcium from greens and beans. That's where that's where the cow got it. The cow, that's where the cow gets the calcium. So those things. And one of the talks actually was about something called sarcobesity. So what that means, sarcopenia, sarco means muscle, penia means loss of, so loss of muscle and more fat. So a lot of times when we lose weight, we actually lose muscle and fat. And a lot of times when you go on like low carb diets, you actually lose more muscle than you lose fat. And so it's really important they do before and after assessments. We had to talk on obesity medicine from an obesity specialist, and she showed the profiles of her patients before and after. And the only ones that only lost, say, they lost like 30% of their body fat, but they lost most of the visceral fat, which is the fat around the organs that's the most harmful. They lost a lot of that, almost all of it. they lost tons of fat and they still lost like 4% of their lean muscle mass, but that's not very much for all the weight loss they got. But people that were just, eating low carb and things like that, they lost much less fat, much more muscle. And also that's the problem with things like GLP-1s, those Ozempics that people are taking right now. They actually show more lean muscle mass loss. And so that losing that lean muscle mass is one of the biggest risk factors for osteoporosis, because you need that muscle, and you're contracting those muscles, it's putting stress on your bones, and keeping your bones dense and strong. And yeah, so that was
I
more.
want-
That's exactly what I was saying. Let me use more resistant stuff.
Yes, do more resistant stuff. And the other thing is you may want to look at two evidence-based sites. One is nutritionfacts.org, and just do a search for osteoporosis, which you're concerned about. And the other would be www.PCRM. It's the Physician Committee for Responsible Medicine. www.pcrm.org. Do a search for osteoporosis. You'll see, I believe you'll find articles that show that plant-based diets have less osteoporosis.
And I was just diagnosed with osteoporosis, which was shocking to me. I didn't expect, but Dr. Greger, this is the Nutrition Facts website that Charlie's referring to. He has like an hour plus, I think it might even be 2 hours, that I've just begun webinar about this. And so I love what you just said. Yeah, and I'll show you. Yeah. Yeah, plus those pills have their own,
Yeah, the pills, the question was about the pills, so they do increase bone mineral density, no question, but where the studies are more strong is in patients that are in residential care facilities, nursing homes, because they're not getting sunshine, not getting resistance exercise, and so that's the data that they publish most of the time, which is that population, because it does reduce risk of hip fractures if they fall, things. And so that has some benefit. And even if you do Dr. Greger's webinar and look at what's the science say overall for general population, somewhere about 10% for less reduction in a hip fracture if you fall down, about a 30% risk reduction for a vertebral fracture in the back if you were to fall down. So there is some benefit to these Fosamax and Prolia and Reclass, these medications that we use for osteoporosis. But then they have a lot of side effects. They have they're expensive, and they can cause things like jaw necrosis, and cause some other problems. And there's actually a side effect of a spontaneous femur fracture can happen with these medications. Yeah, it's rare, but it's there. It's in the published data. And so, and another big thing is not falling down. So doing things like Tai Chi and physical activity to keep from falling down. So that's actually, when I talk about osteoporosis, that would be actually the number one thing, is to do whatever it takes to not fall down. That's what.
Yeah, I fell on my stairs. It's almost been 18 months ago, and I'm recovering from a concussion, a very long-term concussion, and I am finally making some progress. And I think the hope of being able to come to some of these classes and the plant food, and I'm cleared to walk. I can now hike. I go with Cherie, who has been the best advocate here, and her husband Dave, who shared his story, and he would be a great one to have a story on that. So I didn't break a single thing. I got knocked out. I did hit my head, different things like that. But nothing broke. So right now I need to focus on what's most important, and that is recovering from that. And, I'm on stairs every day still. So I'm not falling. Thank God for that. But thank you very much. I'm sorry, folks, to take up your time, but you maybe
problem.
taking those stands too. So,
Before the question, there one online, Doug and Evie.
Yeah, I talked about my autoimmune disease before, and I bought a book on the recommendation of Scott on a lady who is involved in reversing
Brooke Goldner.
reversing autoimmune diseases. Doctor, she's buying 40 pounds of bananas every 2 weeks. Dr. Greger just brought out something. I wonder if you have addressed that, and I haven't been in attendance.
Are you asking about the banana thing with the enzyme that breaks down antioxidants? Is that?
Yeah, and mixing it with huge amounts of greens in smoothies, which we've been doing.
Yeah, well,
Do you remember what Brooke said about that?
yeah, go ahead.
So Dr. Baker has it on his website that, so if you're gonna eat a smoothie or anything with lots of antioxidants like berries and things like that, greens in your smoothie, if you put a fruit in there that browns when it's out in the air, like avocados or bananas, what's causing that browning is it's actually breaking down the antioxidants, because when antioxidant or pro-oxidants or free radicals is what causes things to rust. Like you put a steel metal out in a rainy day, it's going to rust, right? That's oxidation. And so when you eat antioxidants, it fights against that. So the browning of the banana and the avocado is breaking down the antioxidants. So you lose some of the antioxidant power by having that banana or avocado in your smoothie. And so by it's 30 to 50%, something like that. But what Brooke Goldner talked about, somebody brought that up and when actually gave her lecture on reversing autoimmune disease with her smoothies, in which she often has them put bananas. She has recipes of smoothieshred.com is her website with all the recipes for the smoothies to reverse autoimmune disease like rheumatoid arthritis and MS and Raynaud's, all the different autoimmune diseases we talk about. And she says, well, all I have to go off of this all as my patient outcomes, my data. And she reverses people's autoimmune disease with these smoothies. And so she's not going to tell her patients not to put the banana in it because, it seems to work with the banana. But, if somebody is worried about it, they could substitute mango or some other fruit that doesn't brown, and maybe it would work even better. But she's going off her data on her patients. And it seems to be working. So drink your smoothie however you'll enjoy it most.
Yeah, bottom line. There was another question.
Hi, thank you for calling me, Charlie, by the way, and as welcoming me to the group. Was there anything in the conference about trauma, cortisol, that kind of stuff? Because I tend to suffer from that, and that I think is affecting sleep and keeps me in the obesity kind of frame. And then the other question, so there's two. The other one is about, I was keto vegan for a while and I lost a bunch of weight and I felt really good. I moved here about a year ago and I kind of got more into the processed vegan food. And then I think Charlie was saying that, I told him it has a lot of coconut oil. And then my doctor said, cut out any of the saturated fats. I suddenly realized I was like drenched in saturated fats. So she had a heart scan done on me, and I have plaque that's just and my numbers had gone, wonkers because of that keto diet, skewing it into a more like loose, way of doing it. So I thought it's like I was trying to lower all the carbs and I was adding all the fats, but I was adding all kinds of fats. So I think, but anyway, I just wondered if they talk about any of those kinds of things at the conference. I'm particularly interested in the trauma. I have CPTSD and I have a hard time going to bed. I call cortisol the night watchman because it keeps me up.
So
That's a huge topic. There's a lot of research okay. I'm Pam Burrell. I'm a PhD psychologist and I specialize in trauma. And there's a lot of research on cortisol and the HPA axis and about how trauma, especially if we carry it with us, can't let it go, stay with that hyper arousal. There's a great increase in cortisol and there's a lot of research on that. So yes, the answer is yes. And so dealing with that there's a couple of ways. One, we've already talked about here, that the plant-based diet And my own simple little tool that I have, you know, if you get your gut in good shape and the brain is going, ouch, and the brain will say to the gut, how are things down there? And the gut will say, it's okay. And then the brain can deal with other things. But if the brain goes down to the gut and the gut says, we're like that too, then it's harder to get to a place where you can actually deal with the trauma. So I found it very useful with depressed clients that I've worked with, that I would say with depression, it's probably 80% diet. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but there's a whole lot of research done on it.
Yeah.
And also Pam offers.
I what? Oh, yes, I offer one-on-one coaching, yeah.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you something about nutritionfacts.org. Dr. Michael Greger is our national guru. He's worldwide national guru, and that's his website. That website isn't run by money. He doesn't sell supplements. He doesn't sell protein. He doesn't sell meals. He sells nothing. And that organization is the organization, the only one that I know of, that puts together all the studies from around the world and puts them into some simple, coherent thing that most of us could read and understand. It's a one-stop shopping place for information. And when you read it, I mean, you know, if you go to some supplement you see on TV and you look it up, they want to sell you something. That's the language. Dr. Greger is not trying to sell you anything. So it's a great place to go. Type in osteoporosis, type in trauma, type in whatever you want, and you're going to get plenty of studies. And these are evidence-based studies, which it's the gold standard for our Western world. Nutritionfacts.org. What happened?
The microphone was,
Okay.
but this one still works.
Nutritionfacts.org. So you're going to get good, clean information. If you find a study on osteoporosis that makes sense to you, take it with you to your doc, because chances are your doc doesn't know that. And he might look at you like you're crazy, or she, but that's okay. Crazy is, I mean, I don't know. The older I get, the happier I am to be crazy.
Not to talk loud, our batteries are going out on these, but this is so people on the online can hear.
Okay, any other questions? We've been doing quite well, yes.
Sorry. Do you guys do presentations at different organizations? Because like there's a meetup group that's, what's it called? Eugene.
We collaborate with them.
Okay,
Yep.
and then the other thing is Altair is like this, I call it kind of my blue zone. Although it's not about nutrition, it's more about activity and inclusiveness and community. And this is a pretty large group. And if you, I don't know, do you go and talk to groups like that? If they,
Yes,
if you're not
yes.
selling something, they're likely to be interested.
Yeah, we do Campbell Senior Center monthly sessions. We're doing Willamette Lane starting in January, monthly sessions. We've been knocking doors, and we try to go to various places. So if you have a place that we could talk, just send us an email or just to let us know. And
Altair. It's Altair Sport. It used to be snow and ski sports, and like 50 years ago they started. And as they aged into their 70s and 80s, they're still skiing and they're still, you know, hiking.
Okay, you find something, let us know if they're willing. We're willing.
Okay.
Yes.
The way that you veg down in Roseburg is to have food potlucks. When I first moved to Roseburg in 2007, I searched around to try to find a veggie group, and there were like 5 or 6 people. And then once John and some of the guys got involved, and they started up the UC Veg, you know, they would have potlucks. They have an annual, I think, Thanksgiving meal, all, you know, plant-based, and it just grew.
Our plan is to have quarterly potlucks. Maybe
that's
monthly would be great.
They want to see and try and see all the varieties that you can have, and be convinced that wow, there's good food here. This
And
is amazing.
Tentatively right now, Saturday, November 2nd, we're having a potluck here. We're working on it. Yeah, right, exactly. But they challenged us at the conference to try to do a monthly potluck because they're
But great suggestions. And yes,
Are you guys gonna start doing the movies in the winter time? Because I went to one of those last year and it is like potluck. So you come and you show a movie that has to do with this lifestyle that the people supplied, and there was so much good food there. So
yes.
it's these guys, they
Yeah,
do like
Friday, October 18th, we're planning on having a movie night
a
here
movie
at this.
night.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
instead of the
Good.
regular
I
class,
really
we'll have a movie
enjoyed
night.
those,
Yeah.
so I'm glad that you're gonna still do them.
Tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock is our Eugene Plant-Based Providers Community Walk. So it's at the South Eugene High School track. So just right by the tennis courts there at 24th and Amazon. 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's our 5th one of the year, the last one for the year. So we generally between May and September we do the monthly walk, and so you can all come out and then there's always somebody going different paces, so you can go however fast or slow you want to go, and then usually then starting in October through the early spring we do the movie nights and the potlucks and things like that. And we also have grocery store tours with our dietitians, and we're going to be having one probably end of October, early November, another one. So keep an eye on that on the upcoming events on Eugene Plant-Based Providers website. So we have all kinds of things going on throughout the year.
In like Anaheim and Los Angeles and bigger cities, they have those, and people buy subscriptions to walk with the dog. And we got dogs for free. It baffles me. I'll tell people about what we're doing, what we're going on, and this is free. Everything we do is free, and people still don't come and go, wow. Buy with your insurance company, go to your dog. When you're fine,
Sorry. Do you show the Dr. Gregor in the long video because we had that at the Beacon meetup one time, and nobody laughed. I was so surprised.
Yeah, those are available on his website, but
Yeah. Right,
yeah.
right.
So we show different movies, but people have done that, showed us, because he has like hour-long talks he does about different how not to die and how not to diet and all those different how not to age, all these different books he does those. But yeah, talk louder. Okay. Well, the one thing, actually, the second lecture was Dean Ornish. So I don't know if you guys are familiar. He just came out with the randomized controlled trial on reversing early stage Alzheimer's. So that just came out. He did in 1990 published his study on reversing heart disease. So he's holding trials. He was like a third-year medical student. So that's why it's so amazing what kind of a person he is. Third-year medical student. He had the gumption to run a randomized controlled trial in a hotel with patients to show you could reverse heart disease with a plant-based diet and meditation and exercise and group therapy. Eat, love more, stress less, eat plants. Is kind of his thing. And so then he showed you could reverse early stage prostate cancer with the same diet and lifestyle changes. Then he showed you could lengthen telomeres, which is the aging at the cellular level with the same lifestyle changes. And then now Alzheimer's. And he always works with the leaders because he has a lot of he's has been voted one of the 10 most influential people of the century, and so he's amazing what he does, and because he has a lot of status, he's able to get the leaders in those areas to work with the studies to give it more legitimacy, and so he for the telomeres he worked with Elizabeth Blackburn who actually wrote books on telomeres and how that works with cellular aging. And it showed that these plant-based diet and these other healthy lifestyle behaviors can reverse or can lengthen the telomeres instead of shortening them. So basically reversing aging at the cellular level. And then worked with for the prostate cancer, reversing early stage prostate cancer. He showed genes could be turned on and turned off. You know how we talk about in these classes about, you know, the genes load the gun, lifestyle pulls the trigger. So he actually, so to make those statements, he actually showed gene maps of prostate cancer promoters getting turned off and prostate cancer suppressors getting turned on, genes at the gene level. And he worked with Craig Venter, who was one of the scientists that mapped the human genome. So the highest possible person you could work with to legitimize it and show, look, what we showed we can do. And so with, I'll read you what kind of what he talked, the kind of the results of the reversing mild cognitive impairment early stage Alzheimer's. He went over the results. You know, it's a randomized controlled trial, which is the highest level of evidence, but kind of where some of the things like with Dr. Esselstyn with reversing heart disease, and even Dean Arsh with reversing heart disease, some of the critics will say, well, it was a really small sample size. But when you have really, I don't know if you guys know how studies work, where you have the p-value, the power. And so what the p-value means is, so we try to get a p-value of less than 0.05, which what that means is less than a 5% likelihood of being chance only for the findings that you got. So that's kind of the standard, whether you have, you know, 10,000 people in your study or 20 people in your study, you still have to achieve that. And so it doesn't really matter the sample size. So when you have a big, you know, a lot of times to get that kind of a p-value with drug trials, you have to have huge amounts of people in the trial to get that p-value to show that it's not just chance. Whereas when something is super effective, even though it has a small sample size, if it still has the same power, it's just as influential, because you have to have such great results to get that. And just for an example, like penicillin, when it was first coming out in the 1940s, 25 people got penicillin in the 1940s when they had an infection, and all 25 got better, and the ones that didn't get it didn't get better. So that's, you know, the same kind of a thing. So it works, but but you could say, well, it's a small sample size. How do you know? But well, that's good enough results. We got to get it out to people to save people's lives, right? So it's kind of similar with this, but what it showed was, let's see, correlation. But yeah, so I didn't write all the data down here. I just kind of what I took away from it, but basically it showed, you know, that it did reverse early stage cognitive impairment in Alzheimer's in the majority of patients. And kind of what he kind of showed at the end of his talk, he showed all the raw data and all the published data and everything, but then he showed videos of people, the stories again, going back to the stories. So after he showed the science that we wanted, then he actually showed videos of interviews with some of the patients in the trials. And that's where the impact was, because you heard about all the things that they couldn't do before, and then after the interventional trial, that now they were able to do the things with their families and their spouses, and they could now go back and balance their checkbook and all the things that they couldn't do before they were able to do, and most all of them had tears in their eyes, and it was a huge change in their cognitive function from going through the treatment. So anyone else wanted to add to that? But are you?
No.
Yeah.
That's good.
Good.
Okay. I got a super loaded question. I'm gonna make it quick because I know we're like lowering down on time. Okay, so when I run like my marathons and things, I see elders older than me in amazing shape running way faster than me. I met a black bodybuilder. He's 78 years old. This documentary that Arnold Schwarzenegger made called Carbon Iron. He's the only black guy that's in there. He looks incredible right now, but his story he looks better than literally everyone in that documentary right now. And I met him, and he said he has sickle cell anemia. He said the reason he started as looking at the foods and counting everything that he eats is because it was either that or he was going to die in his 20s. And I think that's freaking fantastic the way that he looks. And he's almost 80 years old. My question is, for elders, because I have met different ones from all different ethnicity groups, and they look amazing, and they're fast, and they're strong. For someone adopting a plant-based diet, nutrition like that, just starting out from any age, and continue wants to be very active and with sports, what advice would you give to them who wants the benefits not just on the outside but the inside? as well.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Have you seen Game Changers?
Yeah, yeah.
Charlie, you need to tell me your story about the plane.
Yeah, so Just Do It is something like this. Uh, I started when I was 63. I'm 76 now. And I can be on the tennis courts for 3 hours at a time. But what really kind of demonstrates a bit of health, I'm totally whole food plant-based. I don't eat any processed foods, basically. I eat like you see on the screen here. It's very colorful, and um, bottom line, the plank, we started learning to do planks. It's been probably 8 years now. My wife started out, I could do about a 45-second, maybe a minute plank. And then she got up to 2 or 3 minutes, and I was kind of a little competitive, so I got up to 2 to 3 minutes. And then she read about someone doing a 5-minute plank, and I said, that is nuts. And I said, okay, if you can do it, I'm going to do it. So I did a 5-minute plank. And then I started challenging the medical students up in Lebanon. And so about, I think it's 6 years ago or so, I did a 6-minute plank, challenged the class a little bit. And one of the deans told me, okay, that's enough. So I didn't go further. But then about 3 years ago, I had another challenge on the plank and got up to actually 8 minutes. Never done a plank, but then this last year, back in October, I decided I had a point to make to show, to prove to these young bucks and that who thought they had it in the bag. I challenged the whole class after giving them a short little lecture about the importance of treating the soil. How you treat the soil is how the plants grow, and I was trying to tell them, you know, if you treat yourself and your soil is what you eat, how you move, the chemicals you choose, how you deal with stress, sleep, and social connection. And I said, I maximize all those in my life. And so I want to demonstrate to you the importance of that. So I'm going to challenge you all to a plank. Bring your strongest and fittest people. Half of their class came. It was about 5 o'clock after school, and we started planking. And we got up to, there were maybe 20 people who challenged me. And after about 5 minutes, half of them were gone. And then when we got to 8 minutes, there was still about 4 or 5 people. Then there was a girl on the floor. She looked buff and like she was going to go forever. And I said, I don't know if I can outplank this lady. And we got to 10 minutes and my arms were shaking. And in my mind, I said, I don't care how much this hurts. I don't care how I feel. This is too important an issue to give up at this point. And so at 10 minutes, she stopped. And there were 2 more left. I couldn't see either one of them. And we kept planking, and it got to 10 and a half minutes, and one of them dropped out. And a cheer or a roar went up from the crowd. And they said, there's one more guy. And you could hear him swearing and cussing. It was like he did not want to let this old guy get him. And then at 11 minutes, he dropped. And I said to myself, you got to keep going because you got to show them that you could do this as long as you need to. In 11 minutes and 15 seconds, I said, that's enough. And I stopped.
And that is his body and his mind. Like
The body, and this was mind over literally. So never too young or too old to start, and just, you know, set your mind, think big. Oh, okay. So
turn down
if
the
you
lights
turn
and
the light, we're going to
show
show
some
you a
pictures.
couple food pictures, and some other pictures to kind of end this session. And if you notice the colors of the rainbow, and this was one of our plates. They usually had a soup, like I think for lunch or dinner, and then there was, like Emmy said, always so much salad here. And this was sweet potatoes and hummus, and I can't recall everything in the world here, but that's one picture. And then here's another picture. The plates were piled high. And you know, you could fill yourself up, and there were like 3 meals a day like this, and yet the calorie density is so low that you do this, you get a lot of fiber, and it's a lot of nutrients. It's a very healthy way to do it.
Got oatmeal and fruit for breakfast, and then there was there ever salad at breakfast too? Okay. Some people, I've been to conferences where they did. So.
Yeah, you're right. There wasn't as much the salad at that. I'm not sure where picture 3 went, but I have picture 4 here. This here is scalloped potatoes, and this is beans, and this is greens. And what's this? This was not the conference. What was this? This was what I came home to. And my mouth is watering because those scalloped potatoes were just the cat's meow, so to speak. Okay, so I just wanted to throw that in real quickly. Now I need to go over to my emails here and share a couple other photos with you because it's in the emails here. Let's see. Here we go.
Double click that.
Where is it? We may have to show them next time, huh? I don't know why it didn't open up. Let's try this one. Let's see what it says. Open. Open. I don't get it. Maybe under photos?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Dr. Clapper.
One of our mentors, Dr. Clapper. Do you all know Dr. Clapper? If you don't know Dr. Clapper, you need to meet him online. You meet him on a TED Talk. It's called The Best Diet for Health and the Planet.
Yeah.
You could listen to him. It's a short talk. It's on the website, right? It is.
Medicine forward there too.
I felt the belt you found me asking you if I could I finally said to hell with it. I took my picture with you. There he is, Dean Ornish.
There is Dean Ornish, and Emmy was just like in 7th heaven with her hero.
How old is he? He's 1,000 years old.
Yeah, he is. He is getting old.
In his 70s.
He's as old as
Well,
he's in his late 70s.
Well, he was in medical school in the late 80s. So. Yeah.
No. All right. We're having fun. Normally I would do this so that we could show them all at once, but we showed you Clapper.
Okay, great.
But Dr. Clapper's main mission right now is going to medical schools and talking to the students.
Oh, yeah, there's the 4 of them. And that's Kristen Linsmeyer, the other, all the rest of us, but she's a cardiologist. She's doing next week's class on heart disease. So come next Friday, and she'll be doing the lecture next Friday. Yeah.
71? Okay. All right. And then dinner. What's the dinner one?
That's probably what I sent on my dinner.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my dinner plate. Just kind of shrunk. Oh, yeah. Same one, the Brussels sprouts, the sweet potatoes, the salad. the dressing, beans. Yeah, chocolate covered strawberries. They had a kind of a mousse, chocolate mousse. Usually dates. They're usually sweetened with dates. Yeah. I mean, the calorie density is gonna be a little higher because there was things like that. There's Dr. Perman.
Okay. Okay.
And then the Dr. Clapper one is on the class website under videos, so the livelifestylemedicine.com. So it's it's called the most powerful. It's cutting off the name. The most KLAPER. It's called the most powerful strategy for healing people and the planet. It's a TED talk.
And if you don't know the site, you go to livelifestylemedicine.com. You can see it right here. And there comes the page. You can all see it, yes? And you found this under videos.
Yeah, it's under the videos.
You click on the video tab, livelifestylemedicine.com. Click on the video tab, and here are the various videos, and you'll find his video somewhere here. Right here. The most powerful strategy. Okay? Easy? KLAPER. Okay, everybody.
Do
What
we
else?
do we have that video? Because Frank, you were reminding me of that guy that he had. He has all those tumors all over his body.
Oh, we have the video on that. We do play that with the cancer session usually.
Okay, but I just wanted to tell Frank it's available on our website.
No.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
But it is available if you want it. Send us an email and we can share the.
Or if you go into the class archives from 2023, which is
Look up cancer.
in the cancer class, and it'll be played during that.
You'll want to see that.
Yeah, that is a.
If you're not familiar with the website, definitely do the website tutorial on the homepage. So if you scroll about halfway through 2/3 of the way down the homepage on livelifestylemedicine.com, there's a website tutorial. Just click on it. It's about a 15-minute video of me giving a tour of the website, where to find everything, all that.
And remember, if the classes aren't enough for you, you need a little personal time, feel free to send us an email and we send your phone number and we'll be happy to talk with you. We don't charge.
And next week, cardiovascular disease. So Dr. Lynn's
Okay. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna stop the share and thank you all for coming online here. And we're gonna, I don't know, we gotta increase this Zoom. How do I get the Zoom? Where's the Zoom done? There it is. All right, Doug, Debbie, thanks for coming and the questions, and we'll catch you next time around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.